Hello, everybody. We are almost ready to start. People are still dripping in, so we're giving it a few minutes, and then we will start the event. So a couple of minutes, and then we start the action. We're waiting for 2 more minutes. Still people coming in, and then we start. So hang in. All right. I think we can start, Barend and Tristan.
Let's do it.
We have
All right.
many people joining from all over the world. So welcome everyone. In the next, I think 45 minutes, we hope we can entertain you a bit, learn something, and share some experiences with each other. So we will have a chat open here where you can ask any questions, and we try to answer most of them at the end of the webinar. So our moderators will also answer questions that are maybe simple to answer for them, but we try to touch as much as possible at the end of their webinar. Before we start, I want to thank Tristan for joining. We will talk more about you and Carrefour later, of course, but it will be the three of us running the show today. So Barend, welcome as well. I think we can start. All right, are you ready?
Absolutely.
I am.
All right. So today we're going to present the case we did together with Carrefour, Carv, and Carrefour, but we really zoom in on what does retail recruiting mean in the 2026 era? What are the differences between other recruitment, I would say, proficiencies, and what are the learnings we've made together? Of course, on stage today, Barend, my co-founder of Carv, in the space for a long time, 20-year plus experience in building software companies in recruiting. Mainly we did it together, and of course Tristan here as the manager of recruitment and internal mobility at Carrefour. Your host today to dive into those topics. Maybe a quick introduction on Carv, and later on Carrefour. We are an agentic AI platform for volume hiring, helping recruiters and organizations that are hiring not tens of people, not hundreds of people, but mostly thousands of sometimes 10,000s of people in the same positions. Our background is in digital transformation and building recruitment tech companies. Carv went live in 2023, whereas for a solution for recruiters with this new AI era. Extremely excited about the new possibilities of these technologies. And today we want to zoom in on what are the differences if you are a retailer or multi-location hiring company, and what impact can AI make now today that was not able to make let's say 3-4 years ago before the agentic era. And we're going to talk about that. And a quick introduction on Carv. After we went live, we teamed up with many big retailers and large volume hiring players to take them on this journey and make huge impact on recruitment KPIs that we touch upon later. Of course, we can't do that alone. So we're going to talk about Carrefour a bit and zoom in on hiring. But before we do that, we set the stage a little bit to zoom in on why retail volume hiring is a category on its own. And Barend, I want to give the word to you there to do a little bit of intro.
Yeah, I think I really like the group of people we've collected today in this webinar. It's almost everyone that joining today is about retail recruitment or multi-location recruitment. And I think anyone that is in that space, and I think me and Matthijs, we've been building software for this category for over 15 years now. We understand it's different. So a few things that make retail and multi-location recruitment at scale different from normal recruitment. First of all, constant churn is normal. You're not hiring for a position and it's over. We all work with roles where the employee turnover is big and you're always on. And you're always on to fill roles in different locations where normally store managers or location managers are in control. And they are great people to manage a location, but they're not born recruiters. So that makes it also different. Your counterpart is not a recruiter. And you do that across a country, across a region, sometimes even across the globe. And that means, although you're maybe one leader, you operate in multiple realities, because in one place there will be scarcity of staff and the struggle is to find the right employees. And maybe in another location, location manager says, hey, I have too many employees, you have to help me manage the process. And you have to do that in the same time with the same infrastructure. And to complicate that, those different locations, if you're in the US and you have locations in New York, in California, and in Texas, that means that you have 3 different areas with their specific rules and regulations where you need to comply with. Well, that makes it hard, but Matthijs, this is not all, right?
No, it's not all. And even like we talk about operating a multi-labor market, Tristan, we might even talk about with you later. This can even happen on a city level, right? So Amsterdam can have the center of Amsterdam or the center of New York and have it at Times Square. A supermarket can have a different reality than in the suburbs of New York. So the local challenges for each location are so different. Speed and quality must be balanced. This is a thing that we hear all the time. Of course, we want to do this as fast as possible, but in the end, in many cases, the role of the recruiter and the HQ is to deliver the right people to the stores. And if they don't deliver, store managers will not trust you anymore. So yes, we optimize for process, but we should never forget to optimize for quality. And I think that balance, I haven't seen like that, the thin line between success and no success, I think is in no other recruitment reality more specific than in retail because of that. You have so many stakeholders. The availability and proximity matter more than CVs. Like it matters so much. Like if you look at turnover, like how close is someone living to the store? It's so important to see the relationship between that and the happiness on the work floor. So when can you work and where do you live and how close do you live can even determine how successful an employee can be. This really determines on the type of retailer. We see this more with really low consideration higher retailers. Optimizing for no shows, like it's such a running train. If a store management cannot rely on the quality of the applicants that we bring to them, it breaks everything, because that breaks the planning, it breaks the operations. It in many retailers they drive on people. If that doesn't work and flow, the HQ and the recruitment team is never a reliable partner for the store managers. And of course, Barend, maybe this is even the biggest one, the experience and brand experience.
Yeah, I think what you see is that your applicants are also your customers, and we did some research into what does it mean if you reject applicants, and it just hits the bottom line. People don't like to go to the store where they have been rejected, so you have to treat them like your best customers because they are.
Yeah, we have this retailer. They told us every person that we reject, we calculated that it is costing us 10 euros in retail buys, because the negative effect it has on them and their environment is significant. So optimizing for candidate experience never stops. And I think AI, we'll talk about it later, is in my opinion, I've never been this excited to mold processes around candidates. So we're going to touch upon these things later today. But before we do that, maybe Tristan, it's also good for you to introduce a little bit on Carrefour, and then we have some questions for you on how you look at this reality in your job.
Of course. So first and foremost, thanks for having me today. I'm delighted to be together with you to talk about our experiences together, introducing an agentic AI into our recruitment process. So Carrefour, and more specific, Carrefour Belgium, because Carrefour is, as it says on the screen, one of the world's largest retailers. I work for Carrefour Belgium, where we are one of the largest retailers in Belgium, of course. I think we're a pretty known brand over the world in the retail world, so I will not spend too much time explaining what we do. But we are a big player in the markets, and not only that, we want to bring added value to our customers, but also to our employees. And as Barend, as you said, candidates are customers, customers are potential candidates, are potential employees, are potential colleagues. So that link is very important to us also. In Belgium specific, we have around 700 stores. Last year, we won the Consumer Prize of Retail of the Year, which we are very proud of, and we are aiming for it again this year, of course. We have lots of partnerships, but we do kind of focus on everything which is local, means local products of quality. And that aspect of being in the neighborhood, being local, that reflects also in our recruitment, because in a store, who works in a store? It's not people living 20 to 50 to 60 kilometers away. No, those are your neighbors. They work with you, they shop with you, they're your colleagues. So that aspect of being local is so important for Carrefour as a group, but especially also for Carrefour Belgium. Who am I? I'm the manager of recruitment and internal mobility at Carrefour Belgium. I don't like to dive into me too much because I'm the least important person of today. I think the most important thing we all want to talk about is how do we want to treat our candidates and how do we efficiently find our new colleagues. So I suggest that we continue on that basis.
Perfect. Well, that's actually a perfect bridge into the next slide, Tristan, because can you maybe share a bit about that? Like, what is your vision on that? And what was also your before you started this journey, what was important to you if you looked at your process and what you really felt the urge to improve?
So about 3 years ago, I came into this position, and one of the issues we had at recruitment, high volume recruitment for our stores in Belgium, is that our process was too long. And that meant that our time to hire was beginning to become a real problem, combined with a labor market that was very much evolving into in a negative way. And in Belgium, we have the duality of the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium and the French-speaking part of Belgium, and we have two different labor markets, because the Dutch-speaking labor market, we have an extremely low amount of candidates. On the French-speaking part, we have the inverse. We have lots of candidates, but maybe not the right kind of candidates. So we had a combined problem. We had a too long of a process, time to hire, which was very much above the benchmark in the Benelux, in Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. And next to that, we have too many candidates in one part of the country and not enough candidates in the other part of the country. That was one side of the problem. The other side was that because of natural evolution, my team was diminishing. I had lots of recruiters, and because of people going on pension, internal mobility, needs of the company, and so forth, that my team was almost halved in size. So my problem was we have a process which takes too long, and we have a diminishing volume of recruiters who are capable of doing the work. Just to give an image, we had about 20,000 applicants each year. So we had to process them. So that was my starting was saying, okay, we need to tackle this. How can we do that?
Yeah.
And that's why I came into contact with, among others, Recruitable or Carv at that time, to see how we could align our visions.
Exactly, and I think this is a very I think a common thing that we hear. We centralize recruitment efforts. Of course, the responsibility is, and the end responsibility is in the stores. However, we have less capability, time, and money to build out our team at the HQ. But the problem in the field is getting bigger, and actually that gap is exactly where technology can now play a big role. And I think, Baron, that's also a nice step to the state of the current technology. I will do a quick intro, but want to address this topic with you. And Tristan, feel free if you want to add here. I think there's a big major shift going on if we look at the state of technology. And we call this the shift from digital to intelligent. Barend and I, we built a company before called Carrefour, and this company we started like really going live and building it out 2014, 2015. And what we did is we automated hiring processes at scale. And we were market leader in volume hiring builds. We did all the volume hiring for Netflix, Uber, WeWork. And what we did is we digitized their workflow. It's nothing else than there was already a recruitment process, and we looked together with an ATS, how can we digitize these steps? However, what you do is you build a workflow that's still the same for every applicant that you face. What is the impact Agentic AI is making today? The word digital transformation is over. It's a word for the pre-AI era. We are now going to the intelligence transformation. Software that's not just doing the job and where you work in, software that's working for you, doing work for you, or in this case, working for an applicant. And the question is, and why is this now impacting the process and the approach for retail hiring so significantly? And Baron, maybe you can shed some extra light on that.
Yeah, I think you already highlighted the biggest difference, and I can talk for hours about this topic. So I've been building software for over 25 years now, and you were always used, if you design software, if you design digital tools, to build a rigid process where humans have to follow the process. And we all know this, if you fill in a form for any tool online, just write the date in the wrong order or a phone number in the wrong order, and the whole system breaks. Those days are over, and that's, I think, a big change now. And if you look at those new capabilities where indeed you can be more open and unstructured, and you don't work in a system, but you work with a system that will allow you to create experiences I mean, for a decade, we call application processes, we call them experiences, but in reality, these are processes. But now we can create experiences where candidates can be way more in the driver's seat, so that the end result for the candidate doesn't feel like a rejection machine. I come in here and I end there, and there's only one way to get through. But that we can be smart, that we can really look, okay, but what is it that the candidate wants? What is the labor market today in this specific city? What are the needs of the different locations today? And marry those. So get the interest of the candidate, the reality of today, all in an unstructured form, and create a process that's not rigid, but that's really service oriented. And I think that's also, Tristan, what was one of your missions. You just sketched how the tasks become harder, fewer resources, bigger challenges, but at the same time, you also said, but I want to increase the experience. I don't want to decrease this.
Yes, that's true. Eh? That's because, as we already said, your candidate is your customer. So you don't want to have an experience for that customer that has a negative impact on his experience for your brands in totality. You want to give them everything they do which connects to your brand, be it an employer brand, being a product brand. You want it to be a positive experience. And if you have an existing process and the experience is neutral, you have to make sure that whatever you do, whatever you change, you make it better. If you already have a positive experience, that's perfect, that's fine. If you change anything, make sure that you better the experience. So it was something that has always been in my mind, and in this journey also, that has been one of the major KPIs we took from the start. Whatever we do, whatever we change, whatever we decide, we have to make the check with our customers, with our candidates, if the impact on them is positive.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think if you look at this digital versus intelligence, maybe we can address a bit, and then before we jump into like the Carv platform and the solutions, what does it really mean for the candidate? Because I think if you look at this slide, you will think, okay, you see a linear process on the left side, and you see almost like this hub, this bubble on the right side. But what does it actually?
Well, anybody that has been in Carv webinars before, you're back, Matthijs. I just wanted to introduce the fact that you always randomly leave, but you're back. So, your audio is not back. Yes. No, sorry. That's
This is exactly crazy.
Yes,
huh?
you're back.
Yeah.
You're back.
It's almost like a curse, huh?
It's the Murphy law of Carv webinars.
But here we are. So on the left side we see the linear process, and on the right side we see this bubble hub type of thing. And what we see is the left side is to us digital, and the right side is intelligence. But what does it actually mean? It means that in this new agentic era, you can almost see your application process as an agent who gives with capabilities, who gives the applicant what they need at that time. Because Tristan, in the end, if we have a linear process from left to right, and AI can take over steps for recruiters, it's nice. But how nice would it be that the applicant can just get any service they want at any moment in time, as if you get a butler in a hotel? It doesn't work in a linear way. It works, it just does for you what it wants to do for you. The beautiful thing is AI now has the intelligence to serve an applicant exactly the way they want to be served. So if you enter an application process and the applicant asks, I just want to have more information about this job before I even apply, the AI should be intelligent enough to just give them that. If they apply for a job, but along the way they think, this is not for me, AI should pick that up and say, hey, maybe there's another role for you that fits better in this company, or maybe in another company. It should not be bound to linear processes anymore. Real candidate experience is you can serve the applicant exactly in the way they want to be served and give them the right information that they want. Actually, that's the way you would do it if you have infinite amount of people. Because Tristan, if you would have 1 million recruiters, you would say, just interview them all one-on-one if they walk onto to a site or online, and just have a conversation about with them what they want. That's not possible. But now it's possible with AI. And that's the shift we're now making. And in the years to come, that we believe will be the main common way of tackling these recruitment challenges. I think that's a good bridge, Baron, to the Carv platform itself, right? Because I think that is an introduction to how we built the Carv platform, and then how we implement this for with an example movie for retailers. Baron, maybe you can give a quick introduction on this.
Yeah. So when we started this webinar, we explained the specifics of retail recruitment, why it's different, and then we talked about what the new technology can enable when it comes to candidate experience. And we took these ingredients and used them to build our platform. So our platform is an agentic platform that has a lot of capabilities that are used in retail recruitment. And that platform is connected to all the existing infrastructure. So we're integrated with ATS systems, with VoIP systems. Whatever system is used by humans today, our AI can work on those systems just as well. And then the AI will execute tasks and is capable of communicating to candidates through different channels. So if the candidate is in Europe and uses WhatsApp, the AI will communicate over WhatsApp. If it's in the US, it's text message. If the candidate says, hey, I'd rather just have a phone call, the candidate can literally just pick up the phone, call his personal clerk, call his AI, and go through the recruitment process or the recruitment steps or recruitment questions over voice. What we do with our customers, we are designed for enterprise, and I think anybody working in an enterprise will recognize the fact that these organizations are always a bit different. They all have specific process with specific needs and specific realities. So we built the platform in a way that it's not a one size fits all. Here is an AI tool. You use it or you don't use it. But that each of these agents are trained, integrated, and tailored to your reality and can work together. So you have handovers from the one agent to the other in a way that's compliant with your reality and also has the context of your organization. So that's what we do together with our enterprise customers. And the end result is an agentic application process that for the applicant feels as if they were just serviced by a human all the way.
Exactly. And the beauty is we can orchestrate these agents, these capabilities that you see on the platform, and just look with every retailer, what is your need and what type of army do you need? What type of agent do you need to serve your process? So if you, for example, are a grocery store, it's much more focused on the efficiency to get the scheduling right, the screening right, because it's a lot about availability, when can you work, where can you work. But if you are more, for example, if you're a retailer where presence and also how you show up in the store and can you do sales well, we might have agents that can do much more qualifying as well in the process. So each retailer will have different needs, and for each retailer, we orchestrate the perfect army of agents to serve the applicant in the right way. I think it's time to let this come to life and to also show you a bit how a potential flow could work. So let's dive into that and start the movie, Barend, and then we can talk you through this, how this would, in an example case, work. So we're gonna pause the movie here and there. So this is an example of a candidate-centric, and in this case, we use a few of the agents for this specific retailer, where we say we do a host screen, we do the admin assist, the scheduling, the interviewing, the routing, and you will see a flow now of a few of the agents that are used here in this use case. So here, Baron, maybe you can give some context how we look at this, because of course, Tristan, for you the same, capturing your talent is extremely important.
Yes, so you want to have these agents available in any sourcing channel, whether it's social media, campaigning, your own website. But what we also still see is that if you have 600, 700, 800 locations, each location is a sourcing channel in itself, so it can be transformed in a digital experience that is basically a free owned media to get more candidates in.
Yep. I want to already address this. So what we see here is we see the agent here starting up a conversation, hosting the candidate and screening the candidate. I mean, we all know our traditional chatbots, right? They are built up as decision trees. You say like, if this, then that. 99% of the processes we see are built like that. The issue is that's an old linear way of working. It is not candidate-centric, really. Why not? It's always bound to the decision tree the company built. What happens if your candidate says, I don't want to answer my questions now about my availability. I first want to know more about this retailer. In the reality that we have today, if the candidate asks that question, our agent will immediately switch, bring in the new agent, and say, oh, hey, I'm here. I can just give you more information about the job. That's what we mean with it's not linear, but that the intelligent process will serve the candidate in that way. We now have an example that goes like this, where we built this profile and we literally adjust it to the candidate needs in that really specific moment. The process will not break if the candidate asks a question that's outside of the predetermined process.
I think this is also an interesting part, as we just discussed in the intro, that you have multiple labor markets even in one city. And what we see a lot is that applicants apply at the store close to them. So stores where a lot of people live have a lot of applicants, while others that are more in business areas don't have applicants. Our system, so the agent, real-time checks what is the need in the different locations, and then motivates applicants to go for the stores where the need is the highest.
Yeah, I think this is the load balancing of that is critical, because I think, Tristan, this is the issue you also addressed. The load balances within locations in cities can also be so different.
That's true. And in a classical process, you have a team of recruiters who know that, and as a human can make decisions based on that knowledge. Just a digitalization, there is no knowledge because it's from point A to point B to point C, a broken process. And that's the advantage of AI, is that, again, there's a sort of intelligence there behind it, and it can indicate, okay, you have your candidate for that position, but because you're candidate for that position and you live there, we might have other opportunities for you. And so it's a gain for the candidate and a gain for the enterprise.
Exactly, because candidate experience to me is not sending a gift after you've been done. I think that's super nice, by the way. I think it's cool, and many retailers, that's the first thing they think. We need to send them something if they reject them, or I think it's great because people love it. But the real thing you can do is, did we really did everything to find the right job for them or to give them a job here? And in our data, we see so many people don't get a job that could have get a job at the company because it's not efficiently routed or really in the process efficiently enough taken care of to see what the possibilities are. And you will see this later on in the scheduling flow and the sort flow too. Of course, scheduling. I think what is really important here is also the rescheduling agent, because scheduling is one, but if you look at the amount of no-shows that are caused by inefficient rescheduling flows, is insanely high in retail. So we focus here a bit, and this means this virtual recruiter that you see here, the recruiter can also always go back to the agent, say, hey, I'm late, or I want to reschedule. And we do all the reminders and making sure that we have a process for each specific candidate that makes sure that the no-show rates in the stores are always going down, because that's a huge factor for store managers. I mean, Barend, I think this is so significant, right, for retail.
Yeah, so an applicant comes in, and if an applicant traditionally is not lucky at his first application, it's just the end. The applicant has to go back and apply again. this agent is always on. So anytime the candidate has a question, it can go back to the agent, but the agent is also in the know of the status of the application and can reach back out. So if somebody is, what call it, a silver medalist, was qualified but not hired, let's reach out again and let's do another attempt. Maybe another store got an opening today that was not there 1 week ago. So we make sure that the candidate utilization is maximized, both out of the interest of the candidate and the company.
Yes, and we see this is silver medalist, but what also happens a lot is that we have retail clients where, for example, they have 3 different type of sales roles or three different type of roles within in the store. The applicant doesn't know that when they apply. They just think, I want to have a job at this specific retailer. In the flow, a routing agent is always looking, can I offer an alternative job if this job is not going to be a fit? Because they usually apply at a specific vacancy. If you go back to the traditional way of working, the linear process of the chatbot, if you don't make it on that specific role with those requirements, it says you fail. In the new way of working, the intelligent way of working, the agent would pick up, it's failing. What can he do? What roles do we have in this store? Hey, by the way, can I give you a quick phone call? Because might have something else for you. Candidate experience in retail. If you ask candidates, how can we improve the experience? What do you want most? It's not a present. It's not an after interview. It's not a survey. It's one thing. I want a job. So that's our main responsibility to improve experience. So that's what we do here, making sure those candidates get the job. And if they don't even get a job at your retailer, maybe we should even push them to a different job outside of you. How cool is that? We now have many brands at Carv that ask us, if my candidate fails, please bring them to another job because that will increase my experience. In your case, Tristan, I found my job at company X via Carrefour. You are happy to do that if it's improving your brand, right?
Absolutely.
Of course, we track all the insights and the information. I think that's pretty common, but it's definitely a hygiene. Okay, I think we can pause here, and maybe we can also, Barend, here we have a few questions about this flow, and I think before we move on, maybe answer 2 questions that come in. I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Especially on the scheduling, and Florian is asking it like, how does it work, and does the bot check the company's agenda directly with the Outlook and the Gmail?
Yeah, it's interesting. So this is one example where you see in every client different reality. So some organizations have a calendar per location where they say, hey, schedule it in the location, and there's always someone that can do the interview. We have also customers that say, no, it's the store manager that needs to do the interview, and then we schedule in the agenda of a person. And you have reality where you schedule in the agenda of groups. So where there are a group of location managers that work shifts, and you put it in their agendas. So this is something, that can be customized. And we are integrated standard with Outlook and indeed with Google Calendar.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's move on. I think this was.
I think one thing, there was also a question about the ATS, how we integrate, and I think it's good to mention. So we see the ATS as the truth for structured information. So you also saw this in this movie. If the AI has a conversation with the applicant, those conversations can be really short, but they can also take days. And anytime something is discussed, that should also find a place in the ATS, like, hey, I moved, I have a new address, or hey, my girlfriend lives in the other side of town, I'm also willing to work there. Anytime something is interesting enough to store in the ATS, we put it in the ATS, and when something updates in the ATS, for example, a role is closed, and somebody is halfway in the application process, we also retrieve that information to make sure that we don't let people apply on jobs that are no longer there. So it's a two-way integration.
Yep. Yes. Okay, let's move on and save more questions for later at the end.
Let's get the deck back.
Yes. Let's now talk about Carrefour. I think we Tristan, you already shared so much, but maybe it's good to have a quick discussion on what are the results you saw when you after you've been implemented it.
Yeah, well, they're already on screen, so everybody can see them. Just as a reminder, what were the KPIs we were aiming for? That was our process was too long, our time to hire was too big, and yeah, as you can see, the results are incredible because for the high volume recruitment of store employees, we were able to lower our time to hire with 63%, as an average over the entire country. Why do I say on an average? Because it's interesting to see. I talked about the two different labor markets. And we also have different business units because we have the hypermarkets, which are very, very big stores with over 100 to even over 250 employees. And we have the smaller markets, that's more the classical supermarkets. So those are also two realities in two different labor markets. But our time to hire has diminished with 60% in all business units in all of the country. So it is really an structural approach with a structural results. So that was a success. But next to that, as we have already said, candidate is customer, customer is candidates. Well, we also measured with a survey. It wasn't very intelligent on that part, but with a survey, we also measured our candidate experience before integration and afterwards. And we saw that before we had a satisfaction rate of about 67%, which isn't that bad, could be better. And afterwards, it shot up to 82%. And the most common acknowledgement of our candidates was that the information which was given was at the same level as before. That means that all the information that before were given by recruiters could be accessed now by the candidates just via the agent. But which was the really the difference was the speed. We had a very low score from the candidates on speed of the process, which obviously was an issue. And afterwards, we had a perfect score on speed. And to make it very concrete, in our actual flow with Carv, a candidate can indicate today that they want to work, and they can have an interview tomorrow. And they can know if they have a job in 2 days. So a process that took days, even weeks, has been reduced to days, let's say hours, but that's a little bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
Next to that, we also have other integrations with Carv, as we also have the recruitment agent next to us when we do digital interviews, and that helps us create automated recruitment reports, which are integrated with a lot of our ATS, and that also saved a lot of time for my recruiters because, as we know in recruitment, creating a report after an interview, that takes time. You have to think about it, you have to really work on it, and in a dual language country like Belgium, we have to always make the translation. So that saved a lot of time. Now, saving time is nice, but it wasn't the issue. We wanted to have more time, more quality time to spend with candidates who would go all the way. And that's the time we have now. That's the time my team has now. Even if we're halved in size, we have more time to help our hiring managers. And as Barrett, as you said, hiring managers are store managers. They're not HR people. They're operational experts. They're salesperson. They know how to lead a store, how to lead a team. They're not, per definition, experts in recruitment. Now we can help them. We can give them tools. We can guide them. And also for the candidates themselves, they don't want to spend hours talking on the phone to somebody when they don't know they have the job. If they go to an interview, they want to know that I have a real shot at this. And that's the time that has been liberated now. More time for the candidates, more time for the hiring manager, and we spend less time. So it's a win on all fronts. I think what the most impactful has been for us is that we listened to our candidates who said we can't seem to find a job at Carrefour because the process is too long. And in the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium, that meant that the candidates found something else because there are a lot of open vacancies.
Yeah.
French-speaking part, there were just too many candidates, so the flow became very vague, very difficult to manage. And now we can listen to the candidates. We gave them a quick and transparent process, which meant they have an efficient spending of their time, and they can use their time for other things, and we can use our time to give them a better candidate experience. So all in all, it is a very good result for us. And yeah, as I said, and it's a bit the recruitment. A recruiter spends 90% of his time or her time on 80% of the candidates, which
Yeah,
will be refused because
exactly.
you're busy doing administration. You're
Exactly.
sending out letters why you're not being hired. You're crossing resumes. You're doing a lot of stuff for people you're not going to hire, and
Yeah,
that takes time for those people. So now we reversed it. We are spending more time on the people who will get hired, or if they don't get hired, who at least have the right profile and can experience a good process. So I think these are the lessons learned for us, and these are the positive impacts it had for us. Um, yeah, I
and
don't
I
know much
think
what to.
that's so well said, Tristan. I think what's exciting is that this is also the foundation to build onwards on, right? Because AI it goes so fast that we now have so many new capabilities that we can also roll out with you. And I think what you just explained about the admin agent, some retailers do direct interviewing with just a check at the store managers. Others do like a interview online or with a recruiter at the HQ, and that's where Carv joins the interviews and immediately like writes the reports and everything in your style for store management or for management who will hire them. And that takes hours from the recruiter as well. So it depends a bit on the situation of the retailer, but that's definitely a thing. Did you
And
also? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tristan.
yeah, I already forgot to mention it, but what really is a game changer is the self scheduling. A
Yeah.
game change for the candidates and for the enterprise, because in recruitment you have an applicant, you try to call him or her, you get a voicemail. The next day you get called back by the candidate, but you can't respond because you're in an interview. So you keep calling back and forth between candidates and between recruiter. With self-scheduling, it's 24/7. If a candidate wants to apply at midnight, go ahead, apply at midnight.
Exactly.
And a couple of minutes later, he or she knows, all right, now I have the opportunity to plan myself, my interview with the recruiter or with the store at my convenience. So before we were a recruitment classic at we started at, let's say, 8 in the morning until 5 in the evening. Now we do recruitment 24/7.
Yeah. Did you also calculate your cost per hire? Is also a question, Tristan.
uh, yeah, it's something we follow, but given our little special situation in Belgium with two little countries in one
Exactly.
country, and because we do hiring and for the stores but also for our headquarters, and my recruiters, they work for both, it's a bit difficult to make that comparison. But which is clear is our cost per hire was lowered significantly, if only
Yeah.
because my team has halved in size. So only on that
Yeah.
we lowered our cost of hire, but it didn't have an impact on the quality of the process or on the volume we were able to handle because the volume remains the same.
Yeah, and also we see that if your time to hire is decreasing so much, then the amount of people that you need to source is going down so massively. So that's always, we almost see that the cost per hire and the time to hire metric are really connected. So if you decrease time to hire by 20%, it almost has a 20% impact on your cost per hire.
Just to give a small example of how we could how we're able to do that is, before in the classical process we had about, let's say, to make it easy, 15,000 applicants, which were all screens, 15,000 resumes screens. From that, about 5,000 candidates were sent to the stores for interviews. Now we have the same amount of candidates. We have the same amount of candidates which are being sent through to the stores, only we don't screen resumes anymore. We have an agentic AI agent which helps us in the screening. So the
Exactly.
manual labor, the administration has all but gone without having a negative impact on the screening. And that's the plus side. And that gives the time, as I said, to my team and to the hiring managers and to the candidates to be together in a qualitative way.
Yeah, exactly. And the ATS you're connected to, Tristan? A question from the group.
SAP SuccessFactors.
Exactly.
And
I think it's also.
what's
Barend, go ahead.
now maybe interesting on the ATS, because one of the things you also hear is that multi-location environments, you don't want your store manager to be in the ATS all the time. So we
No.
also have setups where we schedule the event, so schedule the interview, and all the details and the summary of the candidate are in the event that is scheduled. So the store manager doesn't have to go to the ATS. So yes, everything is synced with the ATS, but try not to have to work in it.
Exactly. It's also the turnover in the stores, right? So training people on the system, it's always a pain. Barend, I think interesting question from Maria. Where do you see human recruiters adding the most value alongside your AI agents rather than being replaced by them? How do you look at that?
Humans should spend time on the things where humans can make the most impact. That's, I think, in high consideration hiring, the real connection with the applicants, having the real conversations, and everything else should be taken care of by AI. And humans should be responsible for the other side. So we have this agentic layer that takes care of everything, but it's always the human that's in control and that manage the AI agents.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think just if we look at the pace of development right now, I think let's make a comparison in 2015, Barend, when we launched the first retailers on Harvard. We did it with matching scores, and people asked us the question. We had a matching score, and we could say, what's the likelihood of success of a person in a role? We can auto-reject people if you want, and nobody wanted it. Understood. But when they worked with it for 2 months, they trusted it, and then they started relying on it. So I see the same with AI in retail. I think that most of it will be done by AI, and humans, the store managers will be there to do the checkup. Receive someone, hey, connect with it, but you hire, but you will trust the system that it sends you the right people. It is with driving the autopilot in the Tesla for the first 3 times. You're like, oh, what's going on? I don't trust it. But as soon as you trust it, you're almost overly confident with it, and you just forget that it's an autopilot. And the same will happen with the retail hiring, I expect. We will trust those systems more and more because we see it is better than the human process. The moment you get there and you get that trust, that's why quick adoption is so important, because the faster you learn, the more you will trust it and the more you will rely on it and the more it will impact your numbers. However, and that's a good bridge to the question of Arthur, how do we mitigate the risk of AI, the false negatives? And how do you prevent bias in AI calls? For example, accents that are difficult to understand versus native speakers. Barend, maybe you can give some light, shine some light on those.
I think it's an extremely important, but also a really big topic. So we obviously are really looking at the fact that if AI is making decisions or decision support, that it's all fair and bias free. We have a lot of technical methodologies to safeguard that, and part of our website is completely dedicated to this. So we're completely compliant with the new EU AI Act that's coming up, but also California and New York law. If you have, Arthur, there is a QR code. I'm happy to talk about how we do this technically in detail, but that's, I think, too deep for this webinar. Maybe on your calls, the AI is improving. So also dealing with accents is becoming less and less of a problem. And the other thing is, you can also let applicants speak in their native language, so in their native language, and then just have AI check the language you want them to work in. I think this is also a big topic from Tristan, because as he explained, there is a French and a Dutch-speaking part in Belgium. So you want to check their language skills to see if they can do the job. But the actual communication can also happen in the language of the applicant.
Exactly. And I think Chris says, I'm not sure, but if I'm right, but I believe the AI agents has less bias than the human recruiter. And that's the fun part. We try to make laws for AI, which is good. But in the end, we don't have laws for humans. Well, limited laws. We do have them, of course. But we see the same. The AI process is actually more reliable on a bias level.
One of the things we do is AI just don't have access to information that can trigger bias. And that's something that's impossible with humans because they always have all the information. So there are a lot of processes, Chris, why I agree with you that this is definitely the reality now.
If I can add to that question about the bias, one of the reasons that, for example, we stopped using resumes at Carrefour Belgium for store employees because there was too much bias. I don't mean there was a lot of bias, just too much for our convenience. AI doesn't have that problem because the name on the resume is not important. The picture on the resume is not important. AI will go to the knockout questions, what's important for this job and important for the candidates, and will go to objective competences. And afterwards, there's a pre-selection made, and then the candidates go to the hiring manager. So that first layer of bias that might happen because we're all humans, that's already not there. So that's a big plus.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's see where we can. Are there any other questions? Great engagement. Thank you so much. And the right questions to ask. Let me maybe share some last things around this. Oh, another question. Did your marketing costs reduce because the use of AI? I mean, I can feel. I think the same answer. I can just say it for the clients, and maybe Tristan, you can share if you are agreeing with that. Marketing costs will significantly. Yeah, you can say it, Tristan.
So. No, because for us it's something different. Our marketing is something different, is another costs, so it's not connected for us. What we did see is if we solely look at recruitment marketing, we spent less last year on recruitment marketing, not because we used AI, but because for other reasons, and that didn't have an impact on our candidates. I can't say here, oh, it's because we used AI. We have to analyze that, but it didn't have an impact. So I'm not sure, but it doesn't have a negative impact. Of that, I'm sure.
No, I can share this. Like your sourcing costs will go down because your the amount of candidates that you need to source to get to your hiring rates will go. Well, your utilization of your sourcing pool will be much higher. There's another part. If we have the data play right, we can also see from which data sources, from which sourcing channels, do we get the most qualitative candidates in that make it till the end of the process and give that feedback to the marketing team. So we can close the loop much better than in a traditional process. I think Floor asked a question about the Amazon case. That's a really old case before the AI era, but Barend, it's your favorite case. Maybe you can give it was a different AI era, I would say.
It's the machine learning era. What happened at Amazon is they just had a bunch of resumes and they trained it on decisions of humans that were full of bias, and then said to the AI, replicate this. So the technology that they used back then, that's absolutely not what you use today. And again, if there are detailed questions about this topic, please scan the QR code, and I happy to discuss.
Yeah, but I think doing the right thing is also a broad thing to say, Floor. I mean, AI will be as good as the context you give it, and it's the question is which task do you give it. So we're not in the case of Amazon. There was a very free experiment. In this case, we give an AI a very concrete task with a very clear context. So that is important. If you just send it out in the wild and let it do its thing, of course you will. The output will be uncontrollable. This is always a controlled environment, and that's of course where we also have a lot of because you also have now these cases where how can you trick the AI? But we even have agents in place that control the agents with that on their specific execution of a task. And if the candidate is dragging them to the left or the right, how do you control them? This is a whole different topic. It actually inspires maybe Barend to do a whole webinar about AI safety on that.
Absolutely. And also, I think to Mustafa's question, I think we should also have a webinar on the assessment part of AI. So how you can use AI in assessment to assess also the potential of someone instead of only their experience, because there is a complete new world and opportunity there.
Yeah, we come from the assessment space, and we now have the first clients cases where we can even let AI assess you with a higher hit rate than traditional assessments or human judgment. And it is compliant. So definitely the next step. I think that is a roadmap thing for us. And Tristan, also, we would love to deep dive in with Carrefour because it's happening. That's definitely going to happen. I think we can wrap it up. We have exactly talked for an hour. Tristan, not before we thank you for, of course, your partnership, but also I think you were one of the first movers, very open to experience it, very open to innovate, and that is actually rare in this space. So you are really an amazing person and a great support of Carv, but also someone who keeps us sharp and helps us to innovate and make our own product better. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Barend, any last words?
Thanks for everyone that joined and contributed to the discussion. I love these webinars. So hope to see you all on the next one.
And feel free to schedule a call with us. We are happy to dive in topics, questions, cases, and dive into your process as well. Scan the QR code, and maybe we'll see you soon.
And for Floor, we will get the recording. You will get your answer.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you
Thanks.
so much, guys. Perfect. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.